So the next process I've got to go through is now actually wiring in the switches for this. Now, as I said, they're double pole, double throw for the isolation switches. So the way to wire them is the center pins will go to the track. So there's obviously 6 pins there, just to clarify, 6 pins on each switch. The center 2 pins will go to the track, and the outer 2 pins on each end will go to the controllers. So the layout has a principle of having 2 controllers. So the 2 at this end of the switch will go to one, and then 2 at the other end will go to the other. And what I do when I wire those is all the outer pins will be daisy chained. So pin here will daisy chain up to this pin and then across to the others, and so on and so on. The center pins obviously will go directly into one of the wires on the D sub switches, and then we've got the point switches to wire. Now they're all push to mate, so they will all be daisy chained together on one side, which will go connected to either the positive or the negative coming out the capacitor discharge unit, and then the other pin will wire directly again onto one of the wires for the D subs. So that's the process we've got to go through. Now obviously this is going to be quite a long, laborious task, so I'm not going to video all of it. I'm just going to video bits and pieces, and then we can hopefully have this layout running fully within the next couple of days, and then we'll work on from there. So as wiring is not the most interesting thing to watch, and personally I find it quite boring, so I sit here with music on just to keep myself a little bit sane while doing it. I've got to the point where I've daisy chained all the connections together that are supposed to be. The next thing is to take this D sub that I've got from previous layout, which is already pre-wired, and then we'll connect those into the individual switches through the control panel. One thing that I do make sure that I do is when I wire them up, I keep a good list of what every pin number is on the D sub, so that I can then correspond that into the layout, and then I'll write that up neatly once I've completed it. Okay, so the last few days I've been working on wiring the control panels into the boards. So they're all wired up previously, as I said, but then I've got these jumper cables, and they feed up to the bottom of the baseboard, and then there's a opposite male female D sub on, and then each wire comes out and is fed into chock blocks, and then individual wires is then taken up to the rails above. Everything's wired in now except for point motors on both boards. You can see there's a few loose wires, like these wires hanging down here don't actually feed to anything. They were just spare wires on the D sub, so they'll be chopped off once I've confirmed that I don't actually need them for anything. But yeah, both boards are fully wired in now except for the point motors. Okay, so I've been to a few shows recently, as you might have seen from some of the videos I've posted. I'm just going to post some of the items I've managed to pick up. So first of all, at Milton Keynes Model Railway Show, I picked up this Dapol CCT Southern Region van and a BR brake van. Both of these they were £10 for the pair. They were bought from AGR Models in Leighton Buzzard. The tool van I'm going to repurpose, the CCTV van I'm going to repurpose as a tool van. Be painted sort of in a brown colour. I may also use it as an internal user within the yard, and just maybe even use it as just a body. Brake van, not entirely sure what I'll do with the brake van yet. I do have, I don't know, half a dozen, maybe 10 different types of brake vans. I'm sure I'll find some sort of use to turn this into. But for £10 for the pair, I thought it was a reasonably decent bargain. 33030 I bought off of a mate at DMU. I paid a reasonable price for this one. It is weathered slightly, and obviously my version of the blue one that I've got isn't, so my one I'll renumber. This one, I'll keep it as is. Looks reasonably decent, and for the price I paid, I couldn't walk away from that. I also managed to pick up 6 ARC PGA wagons. They're old Farish ones, but for the price I paid, again, they're decent. They've got low profile blackened wheels rather than the original pizza cutters, and they'll just make up another rake of PGAs or another ARC stone train. I will, obviously I know these aren't modelled after specific wagons, they're more of a generic type PJ wagon. I will try and maybe do some 3D printing to make some variable different types of wagons within the same group, that I can make a mixed drake of PJs, because they don't all just run as one type. But for the, as I say, for the prices I paid for these, I think I've done reasonably well, and they add to the model collection quite nicely. I'm going to finish this video off with the model of 59102 that I picked up off of Revolution Trains. This is actually the second model. The first one arrived with the MU coupling pocket at the front all smashed off. Somehow, I don't know how that happened, but it wasn't even in the box when it arrived in the post. So I simply just contacted Revolution, and they've arranged for a replacement, which I picked up at Showcase. I'm not going to turn this into a review of the model, because there's probably hundreds of them out there, and I don't really want to turn this channel into a review channel. There is a couple of things I'm going to point out with the model that personally I don't like, but that's my opinion. The first off is the line, or the join that goes across the front where the buffer beam meets the body. I prefer it if it wasn't there, but it's there, so you've got to deal with it. And the second is, I actually don't like this removable body piece here, so you can get the DCC chip in, because it's now got these quite prominent body seams that I don't like, but again, each to their own. Running wise, it actually runs by itself, it runs really smooth, it's really nice, but I have as you see behind it, a rake of ARC PTA wagons. Now these ARC PTA wagons I purchased them off of Richard Dockrell, who made them for Acton Main Line way back in the 90s. And when I've coupled the 59 to these, the kinematic coupling causes the front bogie on the wagons to kick off as it's going over the point work. Now you could argue, yeah, maybe it's my track work, but if I put it with another loco, it runs fine. So, is it the track work? Is it the kinematic coupling? But when I put, way to get around it is I've put a load of screws and nuts in the first wagon, and it runs perfectly fine now. So, I'm probably going to have to come up with a way to maybe put some liquid lead underneath the chassis to try and just weight that front wagon, just to try and make it stay on the track a bit better. But I've got, I think, 13 of these PTAs in the rake, so they're quite heavy, but ultimately, if I can get around it by putting a little bit of liquid lead underneath it, then that's absolutely fine. And I understand that they say radius 2 is a minimum, and I'm using set track points, and the main line I kept minimum of radius 2 on that as well, knowing full well that that's the way most models are going nowadays. So if I can get around things like that, then that's what I'm going to do. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it, and next time I'll move on with the layout.